There you go.
Hello, and thank you for your time today. I'm Ellie from Limestone Consulting, and I'm here with my colleagues, Caleb, Sweta, and Jake. We're really excited for the opportunity to work with YVR to discuss the future of the Vancouver International Airport. But first, we think it's really important to understand the current climate of the aviation industry in Vancouver Airport. YVR is not only a leader in Canada, but internationally as well. However, alongside the aviation industry has experienced a lot of pandemic issues and is bouncing back with 70% of pre-pandemic travel levels. We understand your concerns about difficulties utilizing technology as well as operational inefficiencies within the airport and your desires to reach sustainable goals in regards to environmental, financial, and cultural aspects. That's why today we're here to answer the question, how can YVR deploy a 3-year technology strategy to enhance stakeholder experience and improve operational efficiency to ensure sustainable success for the airport of tomorrow?
To answer this question, we want to paint the picture of the airport of tomorrow, in which we envision YVR 2030 having a fully integrated virtual airport experience through the digital advantages of mobile devices, having seamless flight management by implementing AI-driven technology, lastly, having cutting-edge sustainable technology through advancements in sustainable taxiing. To reach this vision, we've developed a 3-year strategy consisting of an immersive travel experience app, ground management AI tools, and sustainable taxiing technology. Beginning with the app, we want to integrate digital reality and contactless features to improve the traveler's experience. With the ground management AI tools, we want to partner with Intellect to roll out their turnaround management technology within our innovation hub to improve our ground crew efficiency. And lastly, with sustainable taxiing technology, we want to invest in TaxiBots, semi-autonomous towing robots, to decrease our carbon emissions and improve operational efficiency. I'll let Ellie dive into the first aspect of this recommendation.
For our recommendation, we want to emphasize on ongoing developments of the mobile app. Currently, there's a paradox with the airport digitization. Digitization allows passengers to be processed faster. This increases customer satisfaction, which inherently increases airport revenue. However, with processing faster, it allows passengers to be in the airport for more time, which can lead to customer boredom and decrease in satisfaction. We want to combat this paradox through the enhancements of current mobile app through the idea of digital distraction. Some of these enhancements are layer of digital reality. This would be an immersive augmented reality experience to navigate passengers through YVR, as well as to provide educational opportunities to learn more about Vancouver and sustainable efforts, as well as access to the already existing digital twin through the mobile device integration. We also want to include location-based notifications. I think this is best shown through examples. As a passenger stands in the food court, AI Oscar can then send a notification through the app and encourage passengers to then recycle parts of their meals. Or as they step into the airport, they can be informed on security waits or as they land from an international flight of border waits. We want to make the app the one-stop shop for the customer journey, and this includes implementing real-time in-app data. Currently for the mobile app, you're rerouted to the website where you can then see information on wait times, track your baggage with Check-It Express, and so on. But we want to provide this in the mobile app for an easy customer journey. But let's go a little more in depth into the digital reality. We believe that we can make Vancouver the airport of tomorrow with an augmented reality experience. Using location-based augmented reality, we can streamline the customer journey. Like many other people, I often get stressed when going to a new airport and worrying about getting to my gate in time. I can download the YVR app in advance to my travels. And then once I step into the Vancouver airport, I can pull out my mobile device to scan my surroundings, and AR technology can add an overlay of objects to then direct me to my gate, as well as suggesting dining and shopping options along the way, and provide me with educational stories about Vancouver and the Indigenous land. Currently, 73% of mobile AR users report high satisfaction levels. But in addition to customer satisfaction, we believe we can provide an immersive experience, potential advertising revenue for YVR, as well as harness more data on passenger habits and how they move throughout the airport. What's unique about augmented reality is that all of the components necessary for location-based AR are already within our smartphones in our pockets right now, with GPS accelerometers and digital compasses all within these mobile devices. So what's left is to create the functionality. We believe that we can build the functionality using Wikitude's software development kit, and to further add to our development team with new people and resources. As we can see, AR can increase satisfaction from an immersive experience and unlock new data on passenger habits. Caleb will now share other ways that YVR can unlock data.
The second component to our vision is seamless flight management, which we can do through a partnership with Intellect. The way this will work is we'll incorporate Intellect systems into our existing CCTV cameras positioned outside our gates. We'll then use Intellect's machine visioning technology to interpret live footage of our operational performance of our ground crews, where it can then report inefficiencies back to the ramp manager and the operations centers for change. The advantage of this is the fact that we can reduce turnaround times by approximately 15%, which has been shown through Intellect's previous testing at other airports. Additionally, it's easy to install this into our existing systems since we can use our previously used CCTV cameras. And lastly, we can take advantage of our innovation hub to incentivize Intellect to come join us with all of the resources our innovation hub has to offer. Then we can dive into the last aspect of our recommendation revolving around sustainability.
Climate change is becoming an increasingly important issue as YVR and others similar entities learn how to best respond to this issue. That's why we recommend a sustainable taxiing solution called TaxiBot. Created by the Israel Aerospace Industries, TaxiBot essentially replaces the conventional tow bar tractor used during the traditional taxiing process. TaxiBot is a semi-autonomous towing robot that transports the airplane from the terminal to the runway, completely eliminating the use of the airplane's engines during the taxiing process. The TaxiBot has the capability of becoming completely pilot controlled from the cockpit. And additionally, it runs on a hybrid electric engine with the capability of becoming completely electric in the near future. Some of the tangible impacts that we see with the TaxiBot are both operational and environmental. Beginning with the environmental benefits, we see an overall reduction in the carbon emissions per TaxiBot per day of 13,000 kilograms. This leads to an overall decrease in the fuel consumption we see of 50 to 85%. In terms of the operational benefits, we see a lot of the operational benefits coming from the fact that taxiing immediately begins after pushback, eliminating some key operational bottlenecks. This includes a time savings per departure of 4 to 5 minutes, and additionally an increase in the throughput rate at gates as we see more airplanes coming in and out of the Vancouver airport. Additional benefits of the TaxiBot include foreign object damage prevention during the taxiing process, as well as an overall benefit for the airport is a reduced noise level. We see that the TaxiBot has been incredibly successful at international airports across the world. Beginning with the Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, we see that they've recently successfully finished phase 1 of implementing the TaxiBot and have recently finished are entering phase 2 after the purchase of 2 new TaxiBots. Many of their benefits come from the fact of environmental benefits. They've seen an overall reduction of not only carbon emissions, but as well as nitrate emissions. They've also seen a benefit to the airlines and an overall reduction in the fuel consumption and an overall savings in fuel costs as part of the airlines. In terms of the Delhi airport, they've fully successfully implemented the TaxiBot across their airport operations. And additionally, with India as a whole, India as a country has implemented 30 TaxiBots at many of their airports. In particular, with the Delhi airport, we've seen that $35 million in cost savings within 3 years and 532 tons of carbon reduced. Jake will next talk about the overall benefits of each of our recommendations and how we will measure success with some key KPIs.
Thank you, Sweta. So as each of my teammates have mentioned, our initiatives will allow YVR Airport to unlock some really powerful benefits, which will facilitate that transition into the airport of tomorrow. As it relates to the mobile application, these benefit also we want to be tracking these benefits using some key performance indicators and success metrics that we have identified as most topical and most relevant to the efficacy and effectiveness of the proposed initiatives. As it relates to the mobile application, that streamlined and improved overall passenger experience, we want to be tracking that using a number of indicators, specifically customer satisfaction, which is very, very typical, how are customers interacting with it and how do they feel about it? Also business traffic, what's the foot traffic at our retail establishments inside the airport? But most specifically, we want to key in on cultural engagement. So what that means is we want to be monitoring inside the app, how often are users taking advantage of the historical and cultural resources that are available to them? How often are they using the app to learn about Vancouver, to learn about the Musqueam people, and to learn about the history of the region? That's something that we really are interested in tracking and seeing the functionality there. As it relates to the Intellect system, Caleb talked about the incredible potential that this system has to reduce turnaround times and increase operational efficiency at the airport. The KPIs that we've identified here as most effective in measuring the efficacy of this system are, of course, departure punctuality, how often are planes leaving at their planned time versus the actual time that they're leaving. But also we want to key in on the incredible functionality of the Intellect system that's available, specifically its ability to identify safety violations that occur in the turnaround process and report them back to the operations center. We want to use this functionality to build a more productive and safer working environment for our employees. So it's important that we track their satisfaction with the system as well, alongside those safety violations. Lastly, as it relates to the taxi bot, the metrics we've identified as most important here are airline satisfaction, specifically how satisfied are pilots and airline partners with the program, and also cost savings. How much costs are we saving through the use of these taxi bots? But most specifically, we want to key in on the greenhouse gas emissions metrics and look at how much are we cutting down on emissions through the use of these systems. Insight into that number, that greenhouse gas emissions number, will enable YVR to engage in the process that is required to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2030, which is a professed goal. Now I'll pass it to Caleb, and he's going to discuss the financial aspects of our plan.
Thanks, Jake. So it's important to consider the actual economic value that we can be created through this investment of $8.5 million. The development costs are going to come through the purchase of 2 taxi bots, which is going to cost $7.6 million, along with infrastructure changes, which we can consult with IAI to discover. The mobile app is going to cost $920,000 for the 6-month development. And while we don't have costs for the actual Intellect, because it's a new company, we believe we can offer up our innovation hub to negotiate reasonable prices. Overall, this is going to be 8% of our allotted capital expense budget, which means we have plenty of flexibility within the budget. In turn, this is going to generate lots of economic value, especially with the taxi bot efficiency savings of $4.4 million, which is because of the time savings that these new taxi bots are going to provide. With the mobile app, we're going to have additional revenue of $1.7 million just by increasing customer satisfaction and other streams of revenue. And Intellect efficiency-wise, we'll be able to produce even more savings. Overall, this is going to give us an economic value annually of $6 million additionally. So this makes it a worthwhile investment for this 3-year project. Now that we've dove into the specifics of our recommendation, we can take a step back and look at the overall implementation timeline that Jake can cover.
Thank you, Caleb. At a high level, as you can see, our implementation timeline is divided into the 3 initiatives that we hope to accomplish throughout these 3 years. Year 1 can be thought of mostly as a development year. This is the time when we are acquiring these systems, building out their functionality, preparing them for use. Year 2 can be thought of largely as a testing and pilot year. This is the period in which we want to see these systems in action on a limited scale, gather insight into how they work, how they might be improved, and how we need to adapt ourselves to work alongside them. Year 3, this can be thought of as the finality of the implementation cycle. At this point, by about halfway through year 3, we're hoping to have all 3 of these systems fully up and running, fully operational, and really be deriving the incredible benefits that we can get from these systems working in conjunction. More specifically, as it relates to the mobile app, I'll dive now into the details. We hope to, by about halfway through year 1, expand the functionality, finish work on expanding that functionality, at which point we will then move into a mobile app beta test with a limited number of users at the airport. This will give us the ability to gather insight into what are potential customer pain points and where are opportunities to make the app better. After this beta run, we will then update the mobile app for all users and continue to gather feedback as we go and continue to build out the app's functionalities and improve upon it. Next, as we move on to the Intellect system, we hope to begin contracting and configuring Intellect by about halfway through year one to prepare ourselves for a pilot, which will run beginning in the fourth quarter of year one. This pilot will take place at one gate and will give us insight into how exactly the system works, allow us to familiarize the employees at the airport with the system, and really give insight into the potential benefits that can be drawn from the system. Assuming Intellect works in the way that it is described and assuming it is able to produce those positive benefits, we will then roll the system out airport-wide about halfway through year two at all of our gates. Lastly, as it relates to the taxi bot, we will immediately reach out to the IAI, which is the company that produces these taxi bots. We'll reach out to them immediately to begin the process of contracting these bots and acquiring the systems. Before the bots can be deployed, there are some small infrastructural improvements that need to be made. Additionally, employees must be trained and familiarized with the system. However, we can make use of the digital twin functionality, which is already there, to train employees for the taxi bot, prepare them for its use and introduction, and also gather insights as to pertaining to what if scenarios to give us insight into the real benefit of these systems before they're in and prepare us for their functioning. We hope to have that pilot done by around halfway through year three, at which point we will expand the initiative, acquire more taxi bots, and roll them out airport-wide. Now, we have identified a number of risks associated with these initiatives. The one we'd like to key in on most specifically is passenger dissatisfaction with the mobile app, but more specifically, passenger disengagement with the mobile app. And when I say this, I'm really talking about three key buckets here. Those are passengers who are unsatisfied with the mobile app, passengers who are uneducated about the mobile app, and passengers who are unwilling to use the mobile app. So that first bucket, passengers that are unsatisfied, these are people who want to use the app, but for one reason or another, they don't enjoy it. There's something about it that they don't like. We will mitigate this bucket by gathering feedback through the support page on the app, just trying to identify those pain points and build out the functionality to improve the app over time. As it relates to those who are uneducated to the app, we will simply distribute advertising materials highlighting the improved functionality of the app across the airport, which will do the job of informing them. As it relates to the last bucket, those who are unwilling to engage with the app, they will find over time that the app, that they need to use the app to use the airport Wi-Fi and additional features that are available throughout the airport. So this will encourage them to join the app, to use the app's functionality, and will also, those who are not brought over by this could also be convinced by simply watching the incredible benefits that those who engage with the app, engage with the integrated platform, are deriving from the system. Other risks were additionally identified. They're available here, and if you'd like, we can go over them a little bit more in the Q&A section, but that passenger dissatisfaction with the mobile app was the one we identified as most probable. So in summation, we hope to deploy this 3-year strategy, which consists of the mobile app, the Intellect systems, and the TaxiBot robots to bridge the gap between today and 2030 and accomplish our vision for the airport of tomorrow, which will include a fully integrated airport experience run through the mobile app, seamless flight management at every gate conducted by the Intellect system, and cutting-edge technology centered around sustainability and pioneered by our TaxiBot robots. That concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and we'd now like to open the floor for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, competitors. Judges, you may begin. 10 minutes, questions and answers.
I can only get myself off mute. I think I had the first hand up, so
Go ahead.
I will.
You did.
I'll go first. Thank you, team. Great presentation. I like the focus on the 3 areas. I also liked the idea of the app the potential for revenue generating opportunities. And my question really is about financial sustainability. If I saw in your cost versus benefits slides, I think you had around about 8 million in costs, but somehow the benefits that were generated were less than the investment made. Could you speak a little bit more about that imbalance?
Sure. So going back to the financial slide, the development cost itself were $8.6 million, but the annual economic value created is the $6 million. So ongoing, that $6 million will be more than the initial amount invested, which is just the $8 million.
And to whom does that value accrue?
So that would be to a lot of the different stakeholders. So for the airlines with the taxi bots, they'll see fuel efficiency savings. However, for us, since we're going to be able to speed up the process of the 4 to 5 minutes saved, that's going to help us. Along with the actual app itself, we'll see revenue from an increase in customer satisfaction. And same thing with the actual Intellect, we'll be able to see time savings. So that's how we create that economic value.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Peter. I think I'm next, so I'll quickly grab a spot. Just building on Peter's question about the taxi bots, with each bot costing, by my calculation, of half of the $3.8 million. Did you figure what the number of taxi bots would be required to service Vancouver Airport? And just looking while we were talking this last hour, there's been collectively about 35 departures and arrivals in this last hour. So just using that number that I've given you, can you tell me what your number was that you arrived at in terms of the number of taxi bots that we would need?
We came to a number about 10 taxi bots. Across India, there are 38 taxi bots, but that's across multiple airports. But the airport in Amsterdam has recently purchased 2, but in total, by the end of the full implementation, we expect there to be 10 taxi bots in total.
Okay. Which amounts to $38 million of investment in taxi bots over that period of time, correct? Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Chris, go ahead. I'm done.
Thanks, Dwayne. Hi, team. Great presentation. Thank you very much. I want to focus also on the taxi bot. I'm intrigued by that. And I appreciate the references to the Innovation Hub through your presentation. As you know, we're using the Innovation Hub for companies to trial new technologies at YVR. We've given you a lot of information about who we are as an organization. Do you think we could go to TaxiBot and have them trial the technology at YVR for no cost? And if so, what would be some of the key selling features for demoing and getting some experience with the TaxiBot at YVR?
Yeah, so I can take this one. I think that certainly the Innovation Hub presents a really interesting opportunity for TaxiBot. And I think that the opportunity to have them come in and deploy their technology at YVR and really give a phenomenal use case for their business model and for their technology, I think that would be certainly an exciting and engaging opportunity that I'm sure they would at least consider. It is important to note they also did do a trial run at Amsterdam Schiphol, which is, I believe, the 3rd largest airport in Europe. So they have also worked with other airports in the past. That may be something that limits their willingness to be deployed in that manner. The reason Intellect, we decided to run that through the Technology Hub, was because Intellect is very, very limited. It's only been deployed at Ben Gurion Airport, and even then only in a limited manner. So we thought that TaxiBot, it's certainly a potential that they may be interested in going through the Innovation Hub, but that's something that we would have to communicate with them about. And I'm sorry, you had a second part to your question. Could you say that again?
You touched on it already, and I appreciate the understanding of the opportunities to these companies, right? A more mature company would maybe pass up that opportunity, whereas a new company, startup would actually want to invest in the Innovation Hub. So you answered that. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
I just want to add one other thing. The taxi bot has not been implemented in North America. So Vancouver would be the first North American airport to be able to implement a taxi bot. So I think that's another selling point to the taxi bot company as well.
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Great presentation. Just a question on the Intellect startup of that project. It's looking to start in Q3. Why is there that delay?
Yeah, certainly. Could you go to the implementation timeline, Caleb? So the reason that we decided to hold off on the introduction of the Intellect system is that we may require additional IT resources in the process of setting it up. At the moment, the reason that we decided to wait was because those IT resources are largely going to be tied up in the development of the mobile app. So we didn't want to stretch the team too thin. And we decided that it might be better to hold off on configuring the Intellect, considering that'll be a less intensive process until after that initial phase of expansion has been completed on the mobile app. And at that point, more resources will be available to assist if necessary. So that was our reasoning behind the delay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
I think it's over to me. Thanks, guys. Great presentation. I actually want to talk about the mobile app just a little bit. I'm curious what your thought on, I thought it was really interesting what you brought up about, sort of augmented reality and sharing Indigenous people's stories, et cetera. Do you think there's a fatigue factor maybe that might be at risk for repeat travelers or frequent travelers that might not gain the same sort of efficiency benefits over time and revenue benefits? You have a little thought around that?
Caleb, if you can go to slide 38 to get a better look at what the mobile app and augmented reality might look like. I think it's definitely a possibility, but that's one of the benefits of being able to store the data within the mobile app experience. So if somebody has come into Vancouver Airport again, then they might not get the same experience and we might offer different information. And if we go to the slide before, there are other enhancements on the slide that we can explore later. And one of these areas that is kind of very ideal in the future is the aspect of incorporating tourism. So as someone who frequents the Vancouver airport very often, we might be able to provide them with information about local events and opportunities while they're in their visit, instead of just kind of the basic information in Vancouver history that they might already possess.
Yeah, and just to expand upon what Ellie said, we also thought that this is an important thing. We want to know how users are using the app, and if there is fatigue occurring, that's very important to us. And this is why we really highlighted that KPI of cultural engagement, because that gives us insight into when people come in. Are they using the app for this reason? If all of a sudden, if people only use it for it once, okay, maybe we need to do something to kind of encourage people to come back. Kind of thinking along those lines. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. And that was also something we were thinking of in crafting this presentation.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Great. I'll go up next. A terrific presentation, and thank you for the precision and the messaging. It's believable, which is really important. Just help me understand how you're troubleshooting some of your project plans. It's fairly waterfall. How are you mitigating any delays?
Right. So firstly, Caleb, if you could go back to the implementation slide, I'll touch on this for a minute. So while the process, it does itself look waterfall, the teams themselves will be functioning in a Scrum manner. And it's also important to note that we have allotted an extended amount of time. We've given buffers inside each of these initiatives to account for potential holdups and account for potential blockages. For example, the Amsterdam taxi bot pilot, I believe it ran for about 6 months. We've chosen to expand it for a year to see how, or we've chosen to expand it even longer to really gauge how is this going to impact our systems and give ourselves the time that we need to adapt and adjust. And it's also important to note that different teams will be handling each of these initiatives. So the resources, while in some cases—
And that is time.
Corrected. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions and answers. Thank you for our competitors to your presentation and to our judges for your insights and expertise. We will now begin the next presentations, and Russell Lee will lead the next team into the room.